Okay. I have 6 printout. Do we need more? You have your own copy. Okay. So this is for people who don't have a copy. You can take it and pass, so that we have the text. Only strange. I thought I kind of need a copy for myself. Maybe you can share with your husband. Okay. Thank you. All right. So this is a class on Mundaka Upanishad. We're going to study. We're continuing the class from before, and as you may recall, we had come up to the 6th mantra. We had finished the 6th mantra of the first section of the 3rd Mundaka. So this is actually 3.1.7 where we will start. And this is this section, this little printout, is that first section of the 3rd Mundaka. And as you may recall, the way I prefer to study Upanishad is to take a verse and to read it together and understand it. And then we take 5 minutes to meditate on it. And that way it drives the idea of the Upanishad, that drives the idea of the mantra deep within. Because these mantras they are expressions of the realization of the sages. And as we meditate on them, they can help us to attain that realization. They have tremendous power, and that's how to actually study the scriptures. First we hear it or read it, Shravana, then we discuss it a little bit, we understand it, then Nididhyasana, we meditate on it. And so how to meditate on it, that's a little bit of an intuitive thing. I'm not sure if we can say exactly that, it's like this, but I like to reflect on the passage, perhaps on some of the words, repeat them. That's why I want you to have the text, so that you can remind yourself of the words, either in English or in Sanskrit. That's why we want to go a little bit through the Sanskrit, so that we can understand what we are reading, and then hold that idea. So we'll have maybe 4 or 5 minutes of silence in between. So let's start by chanting together the opening prayer. Do you remember how to chant it? Or should we do it line by line first? Okay, we'll chant together the Shanti mantra, Om Bhadrang Karnebhi. Om Bhadrang Karnebhi Shrunuyama Devaha Bhadram Pashye Makshabhirya Jatraha Sthirairangai Stuštuvagam Sastanubhihi Vyashema Devahitam Yadayuhu Swasti na Indro Vriddhashravaha Swasti na Pusha Vishwavedaha Swasti nastarkshyo Arishtanemihi Swasti no Brahaspatir Dadhatu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let us read the translation together. Om, may we, O gods, hear with our ears what is auspicious. May we, O worshipful gods, see with our eyes what is good. May we, strong in limbs and body, sing your praise and enjoy the life allotted to us by Prajapati. May Indra of ancient fame be auspicious to us. May the all-knowing Pusha be propitious to us. May Garuda, the destroyer of evil, be well disposed towards us. May Brahaspati ensure our welfare. Om, peace, peace, peace. So this is the beautiful opening mantra of the Upanishad, the Shanti mantra. Every Upanishad opens with a Shanti mantra. And here it's a prayer that may we see what is beneficial for our spiritual life. And may we hear what is beneficial for our spiritual life. May all our senses, our senses perceive the good things, the things which will help us in spiritual life, and not those things which will distract us. So particularly when we're going to study Upanishad, it's a wonderful prayer. May we. Auspicious means bhadram. In this case, for our purpose, it means that which brings us closer to spiritual realization, closer to the divine. And it's an interesting question because the devas, ordinarily here, the devas, ordinarily we think the gods. But in the Upanishads, the devas often also refers to the senses, the indriyas, because behind every organ there is a deva. So, and we'll see in one of the mantras we study today, the word deva is used to refer to the indriyas. So in a sense, we are actually praying to our own organs, as it were, was one way of looking at it, our own sense organs. O eyes, see what is auspicious. Don't look at those things which are not auspicious. O ears, listen to the good things. Don't listen to the bad things like gossip and all those things. O tongue, speak the good things. All this kind of idea is also embedded in this mantra, though it's not explicit. So let's go to the seventh mantra. We had studied up to the sixth the last time, and I just have to grab my device here and switch off the ringer so we don't get trouble. All right. Shall we do a quick review? This section of the Upanishad starts with the parable of the two birds and how the upper bird is always majestic and calm and the lower bird is jumping and finally realizes its identity with the upper bird. And similarly, human beings, we suffer in this world and we have both pleasure and pain, and finally we have a little bit too much suffering, and then we start to look for a way out. And finally, we realize the divine, we see God, we realize the divine, and all our suffering is put to an end. And so that's how it begins. And then it begins to describe what is the divine, what is the Atman, how is it realized, where is it realized? And it emphasizes again and again this idea of becoming pure, of the mind becoming stainless, of the mind becoming calm. And when the mind becomes calm, like a calm lake, the self, which is like the bottom of the lake, is directly perceived. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, the pure mind, the pure buddhi, and the pure self, the pure Atman, are one and the same. So this seems to hint at, he seems to be reflecting this same idea, this Upanishadic idea. And the idea that the self is in all beings, that Atman is in all. And it is attainable. Here's an interesting comparison, because in the fifth mantra, how do we attain the Atman? By unceasing practice of truthfulness, tapas, right knowledge, and continence. But later we'll see in the eighth mantra, the Brahman is not grasped through tapas. So sometimes the Upanishad seem to be contradicting. It seems to be contradicting itself. Why? Because um, actually, what the reality is beyond speech and the mind. So sometimes it speaks in paradoxes. Absolutely, tapas, spiritual discipline, is necessary, and yet it's not by tapas exactly. That's not the cause of realization. It simply removes the obstacles to knowing who we really are. All right. Let's chant this mantra. We'll take it word by word first, or phrase by phrase. Brihachatad divyam achintya rupam sukshmacha tat sukshmataram vibhati durat sudure tad ihantike cha pashyat swihaiva nihitanguhayam prihachatad divyamachintya rupam sukshma chatat sukshmataram vibhati durat sudure tadihantake cha pashyat swihaiva nihitanguhayam. Pashyat swihaiva nihitanguhayam. Okay, good. It's beautiful when you start to feel the meter. No, you get that rhythm going. Okay, and I will chant the whole thing. Brihacchetan divyamachintya rupam sukshma chetat sukshmataram vibhati durat sudure tadiham takecha pashyat spuyhaiva nihitanguhaya. Okay, let's read the translation together first. That Brahman shines forth, vast, self-luminous, inconceivable, subtler than the subtle. He is far beyond what is far, and yet here, very near at hand. Verily, he is seen here, dwelling in the cave of the heart of conscious beings. All right, let's go, let's look a little bit at the Brihat is the vast, the enormous, the immense. Brihatcha tad, that Brahman. Brahman, the term Brahman is not given here, but we're talking about Brahman. That vast, divyam, it is divine. It is luminous. It is shining. Tad Brihatcha tad divyam, and it is achintya rupam. I think that it is, we cannot think of it actually. It is beyond thought. We cannot imagine what it is. It is beyond our thinking. And it is more subtle than the subtle. That means sukshmat, than the subtle, sukshmataram. It is more subtle than even the subtle. So to say, rather than saying it's the most subtle of all, it says even more subtle than that. Means, how do we conceive of it? How do we touch it? How do we see it? And it vibhati, it shines forth. It's self-luminous. And then durat, sudure. Then what is far is even further than what is far. Durat sudure. And yet, that, tad, iha, antike, is right here, very near, right here in the body, in our own heart. Tad iha antike becomes tad ihantike. Tad, that is iha, right here, antike, very near at hand. So it's both. That's how it's. You can say. It seems paradoxical. But one way of looking at it is that when we look at this universe, we understand that Brahman is within this universe, for shining behind everything. So as far as we can see, and much further than that, to the very edge of the universe, if there is an edge to the universe, that is all within Brahman. So further than the furthest. And yet right here also, within us, Brahman is shining. The glory of the divine is shining. So it's also nearer than the near, the most near to us that we could possibly imagine. Pashyatsu. Pashyatsu means living beings, those who see, those who have eyes to see. Pashyatsu. So in all beings, you can say, Pashyatsu ihaiva, verily here, nihitam guhayam, is placed, dwelling, is existing in what? In the guha. The guhayam, the cave of the heart. The cave of the heart, within the heart of all those who have eyes to see, means all conscious beings. It is shining. Let's see if there's any interesting commentary in some of our textbooks here. This Swami translates achintyam as beyond all imagination, achintya rupam. The concept of truth always stands distinguished from mere imaginations. Let's see what Swami Nikhilananda has to say about it. If there's anything interesting he has to say. The wise see Brahman dwelling in the hearts of all, but the unillumined, on account of the veil of ignorance, do not see it. So we do not perhaps see it, but by getting the repeated reminders in the Upanishads and meditating on these verses, we gain the conviction. The conviction begins to come, and from the conviction comes direct perception, followed by direct perception. Interesting, Swami Nikhilananda says, it is further than the furthest. That is, for the ignorant persons who don't know Brahman, they feel it is very far away, when actually it is the nearest of the near. I don't like that interpretation. I think the interpretation that, yes, it is both far and near. It is all-pervading. The infinite universe itself floats in the infinite consciousness that is Brahman. So it is absolutely far and near both. All right. So I propose we chant this a couple of times together again. And now we've gone through a little bit through the meanings of the words. We get a sense of the meaning of the mantra, and then we'll hold that in meditation, for silent meditation. Brihat chatad divyamachintya rupam sukshma chatat sukshmataram vibhati durat sudure tadiham takecha pashyat svihaiva nihitam guhayam brihat chatad divyamachintya rupam sukshma chatat sukshmataram vibhati durat sudure tadiham takecha Pasyatsvihaiva nihitam guhayam. Any thoughts or comments on questions? The seventh mantra. See it as far. Mm-hmm. Well, some Christians do, yes. Some of them maybe do. Jesus does say the kingdom of God is within you. So depends. I know some Christians. Maybe here we're in the Bible Belt, so that's a different kind of Christianity from the one that I meet in Los Angeles, for the most part. Yes. Good. Well, it's a beautiful verse, and I find that after reading it a few times, I start to memorize it, and then you really get the power of it when you can recite it from memory. Beautiful. And again and again, the Upanishad reminds us that yes, the divine is real. It can be seen, can be directly realized. So Sri Ramakrishna's teachings are really just a further development of Upanishads. His teaching is also, yes, we can see God, see Him, see her. All right, let's take a look at the 8th verse now, the 8th mantra. Na chakshusha grihyate napi vacha nanyair devaihi tapasa karmana va jnana prasadena vishuddha sattvaha tatastu tam pashyate nishkalam dhyayamanaha. Na chakshusha grihyate napi vacha nanyer devais tapasa karmana va jnana prasadena vishuddha sattvaha tatastu tam pashyate nishkalam dhyayamanaha. Let's chant it together. Na chakshusha grihyate napi vacha nanyair devais tapasa karmana va jnana prasadena vishuddha sattvaha tatastu tam pashyate nishkalam dhyayamanaha. So it has an extra word in there as far as the meter goes. That happens in the Upanishad. But okay, let's read the translation first. Brahman is not grasped by the eye, nor by speech, nor by the other senses, nor by penance or good works. A person becomes pure through serenity of intellect. Thereupon, in meditation, he or she beholds him who is without parts. I thought we were going to read it together, but anyhow. Oh, yours is different. Okay. Anyhow, all right. Notice the word Brahman actually is not there. It is implied in this verse. But okay, so chakshusha, chakshu is eye. So by the eye, the chakshusha, chaksha grihyate, it is grasped, it is realized, it is touched. Not, it is not. Na, chakshusha grihyate, napi also, nor by vacha, by speech. Nanyer devaihi, also by the other senses. Here the devaihi, by the devas. Here means actually by the indriyas, means by we've done by sight, by speech, by all the other indriyas also. We're not going to grasp Brahman. Or we could say perceived, grihyate, but it really means to grasp, to hold, like that, to perceive by speech, by the anyaihi devaihi, by the other indriyas. So also tapasa, by tapas, it is not perceived. So there we see compared with the fifth mantra, where Satyena labhyas tapasa hyesha atma. This self is attained through tapas and satya, truthfulness, practice of truthfulness and tapas. So, how do we explain that? How do we understand that? That the fifth mantra says by tapas, and the eighth mantra says not by tapas. Karma, let's see the whole verse though. The second part of it, karmanava, by work, where it is not by any of these things. Actually, do we realize the divine? Do we realize the self shining within? Do we realize Brahman? How is it realized? Jnana prasadena. This is the key term of this mantra, in my understanding. Jnana prasadena. By the ena, that's the third case ending, instrumental case, so it means by jnana prasada. By jnana prasada. What does that mean? Jnana prasada. Because prasada means many different things. There's a whole, many things it means. On the one hand, we think of it as meaning that tasty food that we get after our puja. Okay, it also means that. And it also means grace. It also means grace or blessings or being pleased. It also means tranquil. And it also means completely pure and clear. So it has all these different meanings. So how do we know in this translation here, the jnana prasada is translated as serenity of intellect. Because jnana, we know, means wisdom, it means knowledge, but it also refers to that aspect of our mental equipment, which is often called buddhi, which is intellect, which is that which understands, which decides and understands. So, which practices viveka. So as the mind becomes pure, completely pure and tranquil, then it becomes also gracious. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, there's a saying of the Vaishnava saying, you got the grace of the Guru and the grace of God, and the grace even of the devotees, but by missing the grace of the one, we fail to reach the goal. What is that one? Remember the saying? The mind. All right. So we need the grace of the mind. So I see a reflection of this in Sri Ramakrishna's teaching, that we need the grace of our own minds also. And as the mind becomes pure and tranquil, Vishuddha sattva becomes Vishuddha, completely pure, means there are no disturbances in it. It simply reflects pure consciousness. In that case, then tatastu, then tam pashyate. Tam pashyate, that he is seen, pashyate, seen or realized. Oftentimes in the Upanishads, when we talk about pashyati, we're not talking about with these eyes. The word pashyati is used to seeing, But it doesn't mean with the eyes, of course. It means directly perceiving, directly realizing. That's why the best term is really realizing. We realize. What do we realize? Nishkalam, that which has no parts, which is completely partless. And how do we realize it? Dhyayamanaha. In meditation. Engaged in meditation, we realize, we realize that which has no parts, the absolute. When the mind has become completely pure and calm and tranquil and most gracious. So I like that idea. I love that idea of the mind, the grace of the mind. Let me read what Nikhilananda has to say about this jnana prasada, serenity of intellect. The word jnana here denotes the buddhi, or understanding, which is the instrument of knowledge. Quote, the buddhi of every person is by nature pure, like a clean mirror or water, and therefore capable of self-knowledge. But being polluted by attachment to external objects, it becomes unclean, like a stained mirror or like muddy water. He's quoting from Shankaracharya. And then parenthetical, as dirt or mud are not inherent in the mirror or the water, so the attachment and desire do not inhere in the buddhi. Thus, the buddhi does not know Atman, which is the inmost self of all. But when the taint caused by attachment and desire is removed, then the buddhi becomes clear and serene, like a clean mirror and clear water. Through the pure intellect, one realizes Atman. So then he goes on to say, in the attainment of self-knowledge, the first step is purification of the intellect, and the second, meditation. So this is the... Any comments or questions about this? Yeah.
I was just thinking that number 5, where you mentioned that it's not only about the subject, again, there is also right knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Where it doesn't agree with what we are now.
Good.
Already, so
Good.
it's just the same thing because it's given the time that will not only suffer maybe to make like more knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, we are more emphasis given on that it is not something tangible that you can feel by the things that is more important. Not only double, but
That's a really nice point. That samyak jnanena. Finally, the other ideas are purity, the purifying. By tapas, we purify our minds. By practicing truthfulness, we purify our minds. And then samyak jnana, this right knowledge, I guess you can call it. That is ultimately how the self is realized. Here the yatis, the sages, perceive, pashyanti, again the term used is sees. They realize as here within, anta sharire, within the body. Right, so tapas here can be seen as an auxiliary practice for purifying the mind, bringing it ready to attain to samyak jnana. Mm-hmm. Struggle is required, absolutely. And then we realize that it wasn't required because Atma is always there. That is who we truly are, our true self. And yet we have to struggle to realize that it is who we really are, and that we didn't need to struggle. All right. Shall we? Any further questions, comments? Let's chant it a couple of times, and then we'll meditate on this verse. This is number 8. We have to, when we're reading it, don't This is added by the translator here. A man becomes pure. That doesn't mean it's a man, a person. It means a person becomes pure. So read it that. We'll read it. Just think of the translation that way. Okay. न चक्षुषा गृह्यते नापि वाचा नान्यैर्देवैस्तपसा कर्मणा वा ज्ञानप्रसादेन विशुद्धसत्त्वः ततस्तु तं पश्यते निष्कलं ध्यायमानः न चक्षुषा गृह्यते नापि वाचा नान्यैर्देवैस्तपसा कर्मणा वा ज्ञानप्रसादेन विशुद्धसत्त्वः ततस्तु तं पश्यते निष्कलं ध्यायमानः. Any comments? Questions? Shall we do one more? We don't quite have time to do it thoroughly, but we can look at the next one, since we started a few minutes late also. It would be mantra number 9. It's it can follow. They're really following one after the other. They follow beautifully. Esho nuratma cetasa veditavyo yasmin pranaha panchadha samvivesha pranaishchittam sarvamotam prajanam yasmin vishuddhe vibhatyesha atma vibhatyesha atma vibhat vibhati esha becomes vibhatyesha. Esho nuratma cetasa veditavyo yasmin prana panchadha samvivesha pranaishchittam sarvamotam prajanam yasmin vishuddhe vibhatyesha atma. Again, the translation we have here, we can read together. That subtle Atman is to be known by the intellect, here in the body, where the prana has entered fivefold. By Atman, the intellects of people are pervaded, together with the senses. When the intellect is purified, Atman shines forth. Okay, it's quite another beautiful verse. Esha Atma it ends with Esha Atma. This Atman, Vibhati. Interesting. Vibhavati. Oh my gosh. Did I do that wrong each time? Vibhavati. I think I translated it wrong. Vibhavatyesha. I read it as Vibhati or something. Vibhavatyesha Atma. Oh, okay. Vibhavatyesha Atma. Okay, we have to chant it again. We'll chant it together now. Now I'll see if I can get it right. Esho nuratma cetasa veditavyo yasmin pranah panchadha samvivesha pranaishchittam sarvamotam prajanam yasmin vishuddhe vibhavatyesha atma. Okay, vibhavatyesha atma. Okay, vibhavati shines. This Atman shines, vibhavati. And when does it shine? That vishuddhe, yasmin vishuddhe. In whose, right, well okay. Esho nuratma, this Anuratma, the most subtle, very subtle Atman, this Atman which is subtle as we've been discussing, Cetasa, through the this chit, this mind, or this intellect, through this intellect, this chitta, or rather the buddhi, it is veditavyaha, to be known. And where is it known? Yasmin, within that place where the fivefold prana has entered. Panchadha. First, we have the five pranas: prana, apana, vyana, udana, samana. The five pranas. So that's why Panchadha, prana of Panchadha, samvivesha. So it doesn't use the word body. It only says this place where the fivefold prana has entered, in a poetic way of saying the body. It's to be realized here. It's not somewhere else. It's here, within the heart. Pranesh chittam. Okay, this is interesting. Pranehi chittam is sarvamotam, is fully pervaded. Otam is interwoven, pervaded or interwoven. The pranas are interwoven in our intellects, and senses are interwoven by the Atman. Well, I don't think that's a very healthy, quite a clear translation. I don't think that's. Let me just check the Gambhirananda. Okay, yeah, I think it's our thought is interwoven with the senses. Pranesh chittam sarvamotam prajanam. In beings, all beings, we like us, all beings are the prana, the thought, the prana is all interwoven, and therefore that has to be purified. The intellect is interwoven with the pranas, the senses, everything is tangled up, as it were, inside of us. That's how I'm understanding this. Not this translation that we have here, but this Swami translates it this way. A human being's thought is interwoven with the senses. When that thought is purified, the self shines forth. Sharvanandaji, that's the... Okay, so he says the first, this cetasa, is by means of thought. The word in the original is identical in import with jnana of the previous verse, and means the buddhi, the higher mind, purified understanding by which Atman is intuited. So he suggests that in this and the previous verse, we get some suggestions on the nature of the intuitive faculty by which the Atman is realized. And here he suggests that purification consists in withdrawing the buddhi from the senses with which it is interwoven in the ordinary person. So this is that otam, that interweaving, that interpenetrating of the senses and the ordinary mind. When we clear it, then withdrawn. According to Swami Sarvananda, suggests that purification consists in withdrawing the buddhi from the senses with which it is interwoven, So the pranas here actually suggest the senses so that the buddhi is interwoven with the indriyas, the organs of both action and perception, and it's kind of tangled up. So that's why this idea of calmness, of serenity, of withdrawing the buddhi from the indriyas, and then what happens then? Vibhavatyesha atma. The self shines forth. The self is always shining, actually. The self, who we truly are, that infinite consciousness, is always shining. Only to perceive it, the buddhi needs to become calm and get untangled from all the indriyas. So, right. Right, right. So they're actually the similar teaching, both of these verses, both of these mantras. Cetasa, by the intellect, by that intellect, by that purified intellect, it is to be known. The self is to be known. And where? Here in our body, where the pranas have entered, the pranas are active here, that is where we're going to do it. But these pranas which is also referring to the indriyas, they are, this chittam, our intellect, gets all tangled up with the pranas, with the indriyas and all of that. And yet, when it becomes purified, the self, which is always shining, it shines forth. Then we perceive it. All right. Shall we chant it a couple of times? And we'll have a short silence. Esho nuratma cetasa veditavyo yasmin pranah panchadha samvivesha pranaishchittam sarvamotam prajanam yasmin vishuddhe vibhavatyesha atma. Esho nuratma cetasa veditavyo yasmin pranah panchadha samvivesha pranaishchittam sarvamotam prajanam yasmin vishuddhe vibhavatyesha atma. Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to share this study of three mantras of the Mundaka Upanishad. Um, and yeah, let's see what let's see what Mother makes possible and what she arranges for us. The beautiful mantras. I'm beginning to understand this verse as we meditated on it. Then it starts to become clear, actually. So good. Um, I've kept you past the hour, so let's chant the peace mantra. Om asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityormamritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. From the unreal, lead us to the real. From darkness, lead us unto light. From death, lead us to immortality. Om Peace. Peace.